welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to take a closer look at some logo designs, specifically a logo folio by Kadir Kubas.
Right.
Yeah.
We've got the designs themselves and some of his thoughts behind them.
Yeah, exactly. And our mission really is to unpack how he uses seemingly simple designs to build strong brand identities.
Yeah.
How does he get so much across with so little?
Well, the first thing that jumps out is definitely his less is more philosophy. It seems like he's always trying to find that core message and express it concisely.
With very few visual elements.
Exactly. It makes you kind of stop and think, okay, what's the one thing this logo needs to say?
And you see straight away how much he relies on simple typography. That's really central, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Readable fonts, minimal tweaks. He's not doing complex illustrations here.
It creates this very modern, clean feel. Almost timeless in a way. You could argue the font choice is the main design decision sometimes.
I think you could. And it's strategic, not just clean for the sake of it. Look at examples like Nextcraft or Ecolites.
Right, where he emphasizes just one letter.
Yeah. That single letter focus. It's more than just a visual trick, right? It makes it memorable instantly.
And maybe adds a layer of meaning, like a metaphor.
Precisely. It hints at something without being too literal. A subtle nudge.
A kind of visual shorthand. Then there are the colors. They don't feel random at all.
Not at all. Very deliberate. You see greens and blues for environmental or maybe tech companies.
Yeah, and those warmer oranges, reds for health or fitness brands, it's like tapping into existing associations.
Yeah, an immediate, almost gut-level connection to the sector. Makes you wonder how vital that instant link is, especially for a brand just starting out.
That's a good point, and it underlines that these aren't just, pretty pictures. They have to work.
Totally. Functionality is key. He mentions they need to be versatile. Think about it. The same logo have to look good, tiny on an app, but also scaled up on a sign.
And stay readable across the board. So practicality and aesthetics are really hand in hand here.
It's definitely more than just arranging shapes nicely. He talks about them as functional solutions.
Where every element, the color choice, a slight modification to a letter, even the spacing, the rhythm serves a purpose.
Yes, exactly that. It's like applying deep design thinking through typography.
He calls it thinking with typography, which is a great phrase.
It is. Seeing letters as more than just letters, as building blocks for meaning and emotion.
He mentions the inner harmony and rhythm of the text, almost like architecture.
Yeah, carefully constructed. It shows how much intention can be packed into something that looks quite straightforward on the surface.
And those tiny adjustments he makes. It's amazing what they can suggest, isn't it?
Definitely. Like a sharp edge might feel techy, or a soft curve might suggest nature.
Contrasting colors for energy.
Right. They're subtle cues, but they play on associations we already have. Do we even realize we're picking up on them?
Probably not consciously, most of the time.
Yeah.
But the feeling is conveyed.
And context drives those choices. The energetic red makes sense for fitness. The cool blue clicks for tech. He's using established visual language.
To communicate fast. It's efficient.
Oh, very. And it all comes back to research, doesn't it? He's observing the industry, the brand's story.
And then distilling it into this simple, powerful visual. He points out things like negative space, font choice again, little symbolic touches.
All built in this unique context for the brand, telling a story with the bare minimum.
You can also see his personal design style coming through.
Yeah.
Balanced, thoughtful.
Yeah, they feel crafted, not generic. You sense the experience behind them.
It's a really nice collection showing form and function working together. Not just technical skill, but intuition too.
So if we boil it down, the main takeaway from Kubas's work seems to be, well, that great logo design doesn't need to shout.
Right. It uses simplicity, really careful attention to detail.
So you build brand identities that are strong, memorable, and just work.
Okay, so here's something for you to think about as you go about your day. Look at the logos around you. After hearing about Kubas's approach, how do you think those small design choices, the font, the color, that tiny tweak might be shaping how you feel about those brands? What's the silent conversation happening there? It adds a whole other layer to just seeing things, doesn't it? Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a closer look at the poster designs of Kadir Kubas. We've got this great book here that really helps. And our goal is to, get past just the visuals. We want to understand how his work tackles social issues, makes you think, and even uses a bit of humor.
Yeah, and what's really clear right away is how this book sets up Kubas's posters. They're framed not just as like nice designs, but as these really direct, impactful statements.
Right.
Where, everyday life meets art and Humor can actually lead to some pretty deep questions. The book itself, it's like part archive, part analysis of his whole approach.
Okay, so let's get into that core idea. The book really stresses that for Kubas, design isn't just about visual appeal.
Not at all.
It's actively engaging with social stuff, personal things.
Mhm.
Uses typography, color, these smart visual metaphors. They grab you, sure, but they also, leave you thinking, maybe even smiling sometimes.
Exactly. It's about starting a conversation, with all the visual noise out there, making you see things a bit differently.
And we definitely see that with his typography. It's way more than just words on a page, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes the letters almost become the picture, or they replace figures, or just the sheer size and color of the type against the background that's the main event.
Yeah, you see those huge letters on a really vibrant background. It just pulls you right in.
And it feels very intentional. The placement, the composition, it's all very deliberate. It catches the eye instantly.
And then there's this idea of visual hierarchy they talk about. Some posters, boom, one main focus,
Yeah.
hits you immediately. But others?
Others are, more layered. They invite you to kind of peel back the layers, maybe read them in different ways. The book calls it a sort of postmodern thing, where the text and the image play off each other, creating these little perceptual games that, force you to actually think about what you're seeing.
And color is obviously doing a lot of work here, too. It's not just decoration.
Definitely not. It works on an emotional level, a semantic level. You see these shifts, maybe warm to cool tones or really strong contrasts. Even just the background color choice,
Nice.
it all feeds into the message. It's serving both the look and the idea behind it.
And the humor we mentioned. It's not just tacked on.
No, the book really highlights that the humor has teeth, It's a tool. It's a way to poke at social norms or consumer culture identity, all through these graphic metaphors.
So a simple shape might suddenly make you think about something much bigger.
Exactly that. It triggers ideas.
What about those, the faceless figures? They pop up quite a bit. The books suggest they're like stand-ins for the anonymous person.
Yeah, which is a really interesting idea. It gives the posters this universal feel. I mean, anyone can kind of project themselves onto that figure.
So it feels more personal, maybe?
Yeah.
Or like a shared thing?
Both, I think. That
Yeah.
missing identity lets you connect in your own way, but it also speaks to these broader collective experiences. And, Kubas is also just really good at taking familiar things.
Things you see every day.
Yeah, everyday images, and just twisting them slightly, presenting them in a new context.
That recontextualizing thing, it's it makes something familiar suddenly feel a bit strange.
A bit strange, or maybe just makes you hyper aware of it.
Mm.
The book uses terms like estrangement and heightened awareness.
I like that. It really underlines this idea of design as thinking.
And you see that really powerfully with the plastic bottle example they mentioned.
Oh, yeah. The 450 years thing.
That stark number. Just reminding you, a plastic bottle takes 450 years to break down. It's such a direct visual punch about a huge environmental problem.
Super direct. And then there's the Figurine Sahayol poster. Own your idea.
Mm-hmm.
That feels like a perfect example of design pushing you towards individual thought and action.
Totally. It embodies that idea of agency, and even something simple like the Corelli Defter poster, the squared notebook one.
Yeah.
You can just imagine how his visual style elevates that ordinary object, makes you look twice at something you wouldn't normally think about.
So pulling it all together, this book really paints a picture of Kubas' work as, more than just graphics. It's like an intellectual platform within contemporary art.
Yeah, the posters make a lasting impression because the communication is so direct, sometimes even provocative.
And the way text and image work together.
It's seamless. The book really points out that harmony across all the different themes he tackles. It shows off his skill, technically and conceptually.
So the book isn't just showing his work, it's kind of arguing for a certain view of design.
Exactly. It's presented almost like a manifesto for visual thinking. A reminder that graphic design isn't just a job, it's an attitude. It's a way of engaging with the world.
Okay, so to sum up then, Kubas' posters really show how graphic design can do more than just look good. It can, wrestle with ideas, use visual language in really fresh ways.
And ultimately, it invites us, encourages us to think a bit more critically about everything around us.
Which leads to a good final thought for you listening.
Yeah.
Think about all the visual messages you encounter every day. Billboards, ads, websites.
Mm-hmm. How are they designed to maybe nudge your thoughts or actions? And knowing a bit about Kubas' approach, how might that change the way you kind of read those messages from now on? Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're zeroing in on book covers. specifically the designs of Kadir Kubas.
Hmm.
That first glance at a book, it's just so important, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's that initial hook.
The cover's basically trying to give you a feel for the story inside, and today, yeah, we want to unpack the thinking behind Kubasic's work.
And what's really fascinating is the breadth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he works across science fiction, psychological drama, even social critique.
Right.
But there's this common thread, kind of visual intelligence, a narrative discipline in all of them.
Yeah, it feels like he treats every cover as this bridge to the book's soul, using typography, color, composition,
Yeah,
all that stuff.
exactly. Bridging the look and the meaning.
So let's dive into that first point, maybe. How he seems so fluid between genres, but gives each book its own unique feel.
Okay, yeah. Good place to start. Take ghost stories versus, say, PSYKHE. Totally different vibes.
Right. Ghost Stories has that surreal collage thing going on.
Yeah, with that really expressive face kind of pushing through. It's horror, but not quite what you'd always expect visually.
Mm-hmm.
Then PSYKHE. It's so minimal. Almost stark, but elegant.
And the type merges with the face.
Exactly, which immediately signals the psychological depths. He shows his mastery across different graphic approaches.
It's like he's fluent in multiple visual languages, and color seems, well, fundamental to that.
Oh, completely deliberate.
Yeah.
Think about Lost Child, those cold nighttime tones.
Yeah, it gets that mystery, that feeling of abandonment across instantly.
Right, or Echoes of Light, that definite blue light spectrum. You just think science fiction.
Instantly recognizable aesthetic.
And then there's The End of Muscular Power, which uses color in this almost humorous, critical way.
To land that ironic commentary on gender roles.
Precisely. Color as an emotional shortcut, almost.
So intentional. And the typography feels just as carefully chosen. It's not just slapped on.
No way. You see the sci-fi stuff, often sharp, maybe digital-looking fonts.
Mhm.
Very fitting. But then for, like, a drama, he might go for something that feels more handwritten, more personal.
And where he puts the text on the cover, it feels dynamic, guided by the image.
Always. It's about the overall balance, the composition. Nothing feels accidental.
So these covers are doing more than just looking good. There's a layer of concept there.
That's the core of it, I think.
Yeah.
Kubasik seems to want to, like, imbue the cover with the story's soul. Make you look, then make you think.
So it's not just decoration.
Not at all. It's a narrative strategy, using visual power to echo the text's essence.
And what really stands out is that he doesn't seem to have just one trick, one template he uses over and over.
Right, that's key. No universal formula. He really tailors the solution to the specific book, the genre, the context.
Which shows a really deep level of engagement with the actual content.
Exactly. You feel that care, that originality in each one.
It really drives home that idea, doesn't it? That design isn't just superficial.
Absolutely. It underlines that phrase. Design is not just appearance. It's a meaningful relationship with content.
Yeah.
His work is a great example of graphic design being, well, a really profound way to tell a story visually. All that thinking behind it becomes this compelling experience for us.
So maybe for you listening, the next time you pick up a book, pause for a second, really look at that cover.
Mm-hmm.
Think about how much that first impression influences us. And maybe wonder, what other first impressions in life might have deeper stories hidden inside? Something to chew on from this deep dive. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're jumping into A Deiograph. It's this really interesting book by Kadir Kubas.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about taking Turkish words and, well, showing their meaning visually, just using typography.
Yeah, it's quite a concept. We've got the book right here.
We do, and it frames itself as like a demonstration of conceptual design.
Thinking through type.
Exactly. How can the shape of letters actually be the meaning? So our mission today is basically to explore how he pulls this off.
And what it tells us about, language and seeing.
Right.
Yeah.
So what strikes you first about his approach?
Well, it's the minimalism, isn't it? He's not, like, throwing loads of graphics at it.
No.
He's just tweaking the letters themselves. It's quite disciplined. Using the letter forms directly to mean something.
Yeah, it's functional, not just pretty. Like dondurma, that's ice cream in Turkish.
Oh, yeah, that one's great.
The D is just subtly shaped like a cone. It's so simple but effective, makes you see the letters differently.
It really does. And it's not always about just making a picture of the thing. Take kapalı, which means closed.
Mm-hmm.
The whole word is put inside a box, a frame.
Visually closed off.
Exactly. So it's using space, arrangement. It adds another layer to understanding the word. You kind of feel the closedness.
That makes sense. And then there's X key missing.
Right, there's that gap, isn't there? Built right into the letters.
Yeah, it just looks like something's missing. Super clever. What about Koopa for mug?
That one's subtle, too. There's a roundness, a sort of hint of the shape and the type itself.
And Priz? The socket?
Yeah, the letters are arranged almost like the holes you'd plug into. It hints at it.
It's this conceptual intelligence you mentioned. He's really thinking visually.
Definitely.
Yeah.
He's using typography to create meaning, not just deliver it. And the colors, always black and blue.
Yeah, I noticed that high contrast. Why do you think that is?
Well, maybe the black is like the solid dictionary word, the standard thing.
And the blue is the visual twist, the interpretation.
That's my guess. It kind of highlights that interplay between the word itself and the designer's idea about it, form and meaning.
That connects to something the book mentions, this dual sign system. Can you unpack that a bit?
Sure. It basically means you're reading it on two levels at once.
Yeah.
First, you see the word, okay, kapalu. I know that means closed.
Right, the standard meaning.
Then you see the design, oh, it's inside a box.
Hmm.
And you connect the visual form to the meaning.
So you're a reader and an interpreter.
Exactly. You're engaging both ways. It makes the whole thing richer.
And it leads to that little aha moment when you get it.
Totally. It's not like a loud visual joke.
Mm.
It's smarter, more subtle.
Yeah, the intervention is minimal, but impactful. That's kind of the magic, isn't it?
Absolutely. That's why Ideograph feels like more than just graphic design examples. It feels like a whole way of thinking visualized.
A system of thought using type.
Mm-hmm. It really blurs the line between just seeing letters and actually understanding a concept through them. It shows what visual language can do.
So the book isn't just cool to look at. It's demonstrating some real conceptual depth in design.
Definitely. It positions graphic design as something quite intellectual.
Okay, so summing up then. The big takeaway seems to be how these like tiny visual moves can unlock big ideas.
Yeah. Typography isn't just about making text readable or look nice. It can be a tool for thought itself.
It really changes how you might look at the letters you see everywhere, every day.
It does. Ideograph is sort of an invitation, isn't it? To see words again, but with fresh eyes. To see their visual potential.
And that maybe leaves you, the listener, with a thought. How often do we just ignore the shapes of words?
Right. We hear them, we read them for meaning, but do we see them?
Projects like this really push us to see words not just as sounds or carriers of definition, but as visual things in themselves.
Visual entities with meaning kind of waiting inside the form, waiting to be seen.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking into the visual identity of a children's publisher called Ikitap.
Yeah, it's a really interesting case study.
We've got this book that lays out their whole brand design done by Kadir Kubas, and we want to figure out how their design choices really, communicate their mission.
Which is all about making reading fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
Educational, yes, but joyful first. Their slogan kind of says it all, where reading meets happiness.
Exactly. So that core idea that reading shouldn't be a chore, it should be bright, colorful, fun. How does that actually translate into the visuals? The book talks a lot about this.
Well, it seems like every single element is geared towards that positive first impression.
Mm-hmm.
They really focus on that emotional bond between a kid and a book.
You see it straight away in the typography, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
The book points out these like rounded letter forms. They feel playful, but they're still super clear for kids learning to read.
Mm-hmm. And that's key, isn't it? That balance. Research suggests those softer shapes often feel, less intimidating for early readers.
Friendlier.
Yeah, friendlier, but still totally legible. Professional, even. It's not just scribbles.
And the colors.
Yeah.
Purple and orange. It's maybe not the first combination you'd think of for kids' books.
Right. But there's a clear logic. The book
Yeah.
breaks it down. Purple for, trust, maybe a hint of seriousness.
Like, this is a proper publishing house.
Exactly. But then you get that pop of orange, which is all about energy, playfulness.
Fun.
Totally. And they use them in a structured way, a hierarchy for text, icons, backgrounds. It keeps things looking cohesive, not just chaotic. It guides the eye.
Okay, let's talk about the star asterisk. That feels like a really central graphic element.
It really is.
It really is.
It's clever how they took a common symbol, an asterisk.
Right, usually for footnotes or something.
Yeah, and they completely changed its meaning. Putting it above the kids' heads in illustrations, it instantly suggests that idea of a happy child reading.
Ah, like a little spark above their head.
Kind of. And it directly ties back to their slogan, too, good books for happy children. It works on, two levels, typographic symbol and a visual representation of the core message.
So the slogan isn't just a tagline they tacked on at the end.
No, not at all.
Mhm.
The book argues it's the actual foundation for the whole visual system. Everything stems from good books for happy children.
And this identity isn't just on the book covers, is it? It's everywhere.
Yeah, the book shows examples, logos, business cards, posters, even T-shirts for the staff. It's consistent.
I liked the bit about the staff cards using childhood photos.
Oh, that's a great touch, isn't it?
Yeah, it brings that conceptual idea of focusing on children right down to a personal level for the team. The book calls it conceptual, content, and formal coherence. Fancy way of saying it all just fits together beautifully.
And that consistency was what builds a really strong brand.
Yeah.
Right? You see those elements that feel, and you instantly know it's EC Tap.
So putting it all together, the friendly type, the thoughtful colors, that clever star. What's the big picture? Does the design actually do anything beyond looking nice?
I think the book makes a strong case that it absolutely does. It's not just decoration. It adds an emotional layer.
Warmth.
Yeah, warmth. It reinforces the idea that reading is joyful, it's part of learning, but in a fun way. It basically makes the whole experience feel more welcoming and maybe more meaningful for a child.
So IKETAP really nailed using design to communicate what they stand for.
It seems like it.
Hmm.
That idea of reading meets happiness isn't just words. You can actually see it in their brand.
It's a powerful example of how design choices shape our feelings about something.
Definitely. Especially for kids, those first impressions count for so much.
Which leaves us with a thought for you listening. Think about the design choices you see every day. Maybe the font on a website, the colors used in an app, even the layout of a sign. How much do those tiny details affect how you feel about the information or the brand? Especially things aimed at children. Are there other everyday designs carrying hidden emotional weight we just don't notice?
Something to think about.
Definitely something to ponder. Thanks for diving deep with us today. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a really interesting look at the brand identity for a company called MathLab Advanced Intelligence Systems.
Yeah, this is a research and development center, right?
Yeah.
Working on some pretty complex stuff, AI, quantum computing, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And we're looking at how the designer, Kadir Kubas, tackled this. He's got this background in art, design, even philosophy.
Right? Known for simplicity, mathematical order.
Mhm.
Which seems, well, pretty fitting for a place called MathLab.
So our mission really is to unpack how he translated all that high-level science into a visual brand.
Let's jump right in. The logo is probably the best place to start.
Okay, yeah. What hits you first?
It's definitely dynamic. You've got these sharp geometric forms sort of radiating out from the middle.
Mhm.
And it's in this really intense blue color, Pantone Reflex Blue Sea.
Ah, that blue is striking. So those shapes radiating out, what's the idea there?
Well, they're meant to represent the core concepts MathLab works on. Think AI discovery, quantum computing's possibilities, maybe even fractal patterns. It's representing that expansion of scientific research.
Okay, so it hints at the complexity without being too literal.
Exactly. And what's really neat is the structure behind it. It's apparently built using specific angles, 45 degrees and 36 degrees.
Oh, interesting. So the math is literally embedded in the design.
Right. It reinforces what they are all about. That
Yeah.
symmetry gives it a feeling of balance, but the outward movement feels, progressive, trustworthy, but also forward-thinking.
Makes sense. How does that logo work with the actual company name, the text?
They've positioned them together carefully. MathLab is in this bold, modern font. Looks techie, strong.
Yeah, it gets your attention.
Then Advanced Intelligence Systems is underneath, but in a lighter, simpler font. It creates a nice visual hierarchy. You read MathLab first.
So clear focus, but you still get the full picture. And the colors play a big role, too. You mentioned the blue.
Definitely. That Reflex Blue Sea is the star. It screams innovation, technology. You often see blues like that in tech branding.
Right. It feels very intelligent, visionary.
And then they use black and gray as supporting colors.
Mm-hmm.
Those add a layer of seriousness, corporate weight, stability, things you want from a serious research place.
So blue for the vision, black for authority, gray for balance and analysis. It feels very thought out. Does this carry over into like their actual stuff? Business cards, letterheads?
Oh, absolutely. Consistency is key here. You see that logo and color scheme everywhere, cards, envelopes, the lot. Creates a really professional, unified feel.
And I notice the designs often have a lot of white space.
Yeah, that points towards minimalism, clarity. Very tech-oriented. Even small things like a blue strip on an envelope reinforce that dynamic, innovative feel.
What about, say, folders or notebooks?
Same idea. Maybe the logo is clean on a white folder cover, suggesting scientific clarity. Then inside, maybe white text on a blue background for more dynamism. Notebooks, pens, everyday items reinforce the brand.
Even flags and T-shirts.
Yep, flags use the blue and white prominently. T-shirts and caps might have the logo in blue or black on white high visibility, but still looks professional, sophisticated.
So that consistency runs deep, physical and digital.
Exactly. You see it in the social media too.
Hmm.
Big, bold headlines, often using a typeface like TT Norms, pro-modern, reliable.
And they use the blue to highlight keywords. Yep.
That ties it right back to the core identity. The images often show people interacting with tech, which reinforces what Math Lab does.
Gotcha. And things like posters or ads, similar vibe.
Very much so. Lots of that reflex blue, graphic simplicity. They want you to instantly think high-tech, science. Sometimes just the symbol and a slogan, really minimal for impact.
I saw one with a person kind of in the middle.
Right, that's interesting. Using a human figure can bridge that gap between, us and artificial intelligence.
Right.
Makes it feel a bit more relatable maybe, but the typography stays large, clear, very readable.
Okay, so pulling it all together, what's the main takeaway from Kubashik's design here?
I think it's how successfully he blended the aesthetics with the function. He took really complex ideas, advanced math, AI, and created this cohesive visual language. Using that strong blue, the geometric shapes, the clean typography, it feels both rigorous and cutting edge.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? How powerful visual design can be as language, especially for communicating really complex stuff like advanced science.
Definitely. You start wondering what other fields rely heavily on their visual identity to convey really sophisticated ideas, more common than you might think.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're getting into Kadir Kubashik's book on book cover design.
Yeah, specifically looking at his interpretations of, Matisse and Picasso.
Right. And our goal, our sort of mission for this dive, is to understand how these covers are more than just, eye candy.
Exactly. How they actually shape our perception of the book, maybe even before we read it. Kubashik sees them as these entrance gates.
So it's not just how does it look?
No, it's deeper. It's what is it saying? That's the core question he seems to pose.
Okay, let's start with the Matisse in Istanbul series then. The book describes Kubashik blending Matisse's collage style
The cutouts?
with the feel of Istanbul. It's presented as this sort of cultural convergence.
And it really comes through. He uses these abstract forms, quite organic shapes, often against a stark black background.
Which really makes you think of Matisse, right?
Definitely. But then there are these subtle hints of Istanbul's architecture woven in. It's like a visual hybrid.
A kind of cultural collage itself.
Precisely. And the book argues these covers aren't just decoration. They set the scene, the emotional tone.
I noticed the color palette, those pastels, like the blues and salmons against the black. It's pretty striking.
It creates a real harmony, doesn't it? And it helps unify the whole series visually.
And the typography.
Oh, very clean, minimal, modern. It lets the visuals do the talking, really. Allows them to breathe.
The book mentions abstract elements, silhouettes, hands, birds.
Yeah, plant-like forms, too. They evoke things like nature, humanity, memory. It's trying to translate an emotion, that sort of poetic vibe of the city, into graphic terms.
So the covers become more than just covers.
They become artistic objects in their own right, absolutely.
Okay, let's pivot to the Pablo Picasso cover. Now, this sounds like a totally different approach.
It is, much more conceptual. It's all about Picasso's identity, his methods, expressed through typographic play.
Typographic play, how does that work?
Well, the book talks about exploring the graphic counterparts of artistic identities. So the cover uses typography itself to mirror Picasso's way of working.
Like the fragmentation.
Exactly. You see the letters arranged vertically, but they kind of resolve horizontally. It's meant to suggest his different artistic periods, distinct yet part of a whole.
Ah, I see. And there's that black and white portrait, too.
Right, which gives it a classical grounding. But then you have these pops of colored letters, like a modern intervention.
And those colors aren't random.
Apparently not. Each colored letter is like a building block, referencing different phases or aspects of Picasso's career. It invites you to, decode it a bit.
So it's not just passive reading, it's active participation.
That's the idea. It's a construct, even if the typography pushes legibility limits sometimes.
Which it sounds like it might.
It's channeling that innovative, maybe even challenging spirit of Picasso directly into the graphic design. It constructs a whole system representing him.
So, looking at both, Matisse and Picasso, what's the bigger picture Kubashik is painting about graphic design?
I think the main point emphasized is that graphic design is a way of thinking, not just making things look nice.
A mode of thought production, as the book puts it.
Yes. These covers are like silent spokespeople for the content, but also conceptual surfaces reflecting the artists themselves. They generate meaning.
So for Matisse, it's that sort of aesthetic lightness, the abstract dialogue with Istanbul's history.
Yeah, almost poetic. Whereas with Picasso, it's more intellectual, maybe. That fragmented typography makes you want to reconstruct the whole.
It seems like both approaches really highlight how form and content are intertwined in his work.
Completely inseparable. The book really documents that relationship: graphic design, art, history, the viewer. It's all layered.
The covers grab your visual memory, and then the book gives you the conceptual side.
Making a case for graphic design is a real narrative medium for today.
Okay, so to wrap up our deep dive, Kubashik's approach really pushes beyond just visual appeal.
Definitely. It's about using cover design to engage with art history, to create meaning in a very thoughtful way.
And the key takeaway for you listening is probably just how much a well-designed cover can do. It's that first point of contact.
It really shapes your expectations, your whole initial understanding of what's inside.
So here's something to think about. The next time you pick up a book, pause for a second.
Yeah, look at that cover. What's it actually telling you beyond the title? How is its design maybe nudging your perception before you even read page 1?
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking closely at the Good Old Days Monument. It's a Greenpeace campaign.
Right, by designer Kadir. We've got the print ads here and also the short films associated with it.
Exactly. And our goal really is to just dig into how the visual choices, the concepts, how they all work together to, get the message across.
The Kubas's perspective is interesting too. He talks about visual communication having this ethical weight.
Yeah, he was driven by some pretty serious concerns: drought, climate crisis, soil loss.
Yeah.
Sees them as symptoms of a bigger problem.
Environmental, cultural collapse, even human collapse, he suggests.
So fundamentally, this campaign is, it's a visual warning, a stark one, against human greed, really, and pushing support for Greenpeace.
And that title, The Good Old Days Monument, it immediately makes you pause, doesn't it?
It does. There's a lot packed in there. Nostalgia, sure, but also loss.
Yeah, and irony, too. Romanticizing a past that, maybe led to the problems we're facing now.
Good point. And the core metaphor is these bronze fruits. Apples, grapes, strawberries.
Turned into memorials. That's the key, taking these vibrant symbols of nature and casting them in cold bronze.
It's such a powerful way to show nature just becoming a memory, a relic.
Yeah, it's a really arresting image, almost unsettling.
And you really see that amplified in the print ads. You get these single bronze fruits sitting on what looks like just dead, barren earth.
Right, under this very gloomy, dramatic sky. The lighting is quite specific, almost painterly, like our sources mention, Rembrandt, like they say. Creates depth, but also a mournful feeling.
Totally. And fruits, apples, grapes, they're universal symbols, right? Everyone gets them.
But making them bronze strips them of life.
Yeah.
They're not food anymore. They're cold, silent objects, just symbols of what's gone.
Let's talk about the text and layout, too, the typography in the ads.
It's very deliberate. That big headline using a classic serif font, it gives that monumental feeling, like an inscription.
Yeah, weighty. And then there's the smaller text underneath.
Which feels different. It's gray, smaller, almost like a quieter, respectful warning voice, a cautionary note.
And the overall layout is super clean. Headline, fruit image, Greenpeace info. That's it.
Very clear hierarchy. Minimal, but like you said, effective. Every piece has its job.
Our sources call it high-concept minimalism, but also metaphorical.
Which seems right. It's a simple form, this single object, but it carries this huge, universal idea of loss. Makes it feel timeless.
And then there are the films, 3 short ones, right?
Yeah, 15 seconds each, focusing on the apple, the grape, the strawberry sculpture. They really mirror the look of the print ads.
But what stands out in the films is the lack of movement.
Exactly. The camera just holds still. It's like it symbolizes nature itself stopping, ceasing to yield anything.
And the fruit sculptures are obviously completely still, too. Reinforces that monument idea, adds kind of dramatic tension.
Plus minimal sound. It creates this feeling of visual poetry almost. It's quite intense emotionally for just 15 seconds.
And the voiceover ties it all together, same text in each film.
Right, that line. The planet is heating up, the soil is dying. If we don't act, the apple, grape, strawberry will be nothing but a memory.
Brings it right back to the title, The Good Old Days Monument. And then the call to action. Support Greenpeace. Protect nature and your life. Plus the website.
It shows Kubashik's intent clearly. He apparently sees this less as just communication and more as a manifesto of conscience.
That's a strong phrase. It suggests the campaign aims to be more profound than typical advertising.
And maybe it achieves that because the concept feels so universal. Concern for the environment, for what we might lose, that isn't tied to one place or time.
It manages to be aesthetically quite striking while carrying this heavy ethical responsibility. That's a tricky balance.
It is. And its strength maybe is in that minimalism. It doesn't shout, but it resonates. It makes you think.
A reminder maybe that designers aren't just making things look good, they're also, as the source puts it, witnesses.
Yeah, documenting or warning about what they see.
So really, the core takeaway from this deep dive into the good old days monument is seeing how it uses these potent visual metaphors. The bronze fruit, the dead soil, combined with really stripped back minimalist design to send a super urgent message about environmental loss, about a potential future where nature is, well, just something we remember, like a statue in a museum.
It definitely lands that way.
Yeah.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener.
Yeah.
Just consider how everyday symbols, things you see all the time like fruit, how they can be completely transformed to carry these really profound warnings about where we might be heading and, what our responsibility is in all of this.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
So today we're jumping right into the same campaign by Kadir Kubashek. Pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
You've got the descriptions, the ads, the film info, basically trying to unpack his critique, on how social media might be making us all a bit, well, the same.
That's the core of it. Our mission here is really to understand that critique about identity in this digital world.
So when you first saw this campaign, this same idea, what kind of jumped out at you? What was the immediate feeling?
Well, it's how Kubashik just instantly hits you with this feeling of sameness, this uniformity. It feels really familiar if you spend any time online.
Right.
And that central question he asks, if everything is so same, who are we really? It's not just like a throwaway line. It really challenges how we exist online.
And the way he visualizes that challenge is, well, it's stark. The black and white posters, they feel like they just suck the individuality right out, don't they?
Exactly. It mutes everything, a real contrast to how colorful the internet usually is.
And then, boom, these bright yellow, completely blank faces slapped on top, like emojis, but empty. What's the deal with that contrast?
That's very deliberate. Those yellow circles, yeah, like featureless emojis. They work so well to show this anonymity and also the performance aspect of being online.
Performance.
Yeah, like you're putting on a face, but there's maybe nothing really behind it. A sort of hollow absence is how some describe it. No real emotion.
Okay, that makes sense. And it seems like everything reinforces that, even the typeface. Really simple. And that little dot after same on the posters.
It all builds this feeling of relentless repetition, simplicity over and over.
Yeah, like a visual echo. And the way people are posed in those images, it doesn't feel natural. It feels quite deliberate, almost stiff. Is that questioning our own choices online?
Absolutely. The compositions feel staged, right? And it makes you wonder, are we actually choosing freely, or are we just copying poses we see everywhere, striking the right pose?
Who pose the algorithm likes, maybe?
Could be. It taps into that idea of performative behavior, maybe influenced by what gets traction online, encouraging more of the same.
Okay, so beyond the visuals, which are pretty powerful, what's the main message? What does Kubashuk want us to take away?
The message is actually quite direct. Less social media, more of you. Simple.
Ah. So it's not just pointing fingers, it's offering a kind of solution.
Exactly. It's framed as a warning, maybe, about the current zeitgeist, the spirit of the times, but also as a starting point. A nudge to actively look for our own individuality again.
And this carries over to the campaign film, too. I heard it's really short.
Yeah, just 20 seconds. But it uses that same look, single figures, those yellow emoji faces. It mirrors the posters visually.
And I understand there's no talking, just music.
No speech at all. Just this single piano note repeating over and over. It kind of brings that feeling of uniformity to your ears, too. It's pretty effective, actually.
Wow, yeah, that single note. It sounds quite hypnotic, maybe even a bit. Unsettling, like getting stuck in a loop.
Unsettling is a good word. It underscores that feeling of being caught in these repetitive digital loops, these behaviors. It's quite clever how that simple sound conveys being stuck.
So the film basically takes everyday moments, or what look like them, and frames them as performances, like we're doing things for the algorithm.
That's the suggestion. It makes you, the listener, Maybe pause and think, how much are these online patterns influencing our actual real-world actions, even our feelings?
It connects back to the posters then,
Right.
urging us to look closer at the sameness we see, maybe even in ourselves.
Precisely. The film asks you to question it. Are these your genuine choices, your real expressions, or are you just reflecting the echo chamber?
So pulling it all together, the posters in the film, it's a very consistent, very unified critique.
Definitely. It's cohesive. The design choices, that specific yellow for anonymity, the repetitive structures in both visuals and sound, they all hammer home this potential loss of difference, of individuality in the digital age.
It's quite a powerful statement on identity today.
It really is. Kubas uses the campaign, I think, to get us thinking about the trade-offs. What are we gaining and what might we be losing in this super connected world? How's our sense of self being shaped, maybe without us even noticing?
It certainly leaves you with a lot to chew on, whether you work in design or communications, or really just anyone reflecting on their life online.
Yeah, it's relevant to so many of us.
And it keeps coming back to that simple, direct slogan.
Less social media, more of you.
In a world that feels increasingly similar, maybe just, being yourself is actually a pretty radical act these days.
That's a great way to put it. Which leads to a final thought, perhaps for you listening.
Yeah.
Where do you see this sameness appearing in your own life? In what specific ways? And maybe what's one small thing you could do, one small step to express your own unique self a bit more? Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're exploring the work of graphic designer Kadir Kubas.
We've got a whole collection here, logos, posters, book covers.
Yeah, and even specific projects like Ideograph, some branding work.
Right, for EkiTap and MathLab and those striking social campaigns too. Greenpeace and SAME.
Exactly. So the plan is to kind of unpack his approach, how he mixes aesthetics with, deeper ideas.
And how it all serves different communication needs. Should be interesting.
Okay, let's start with the logos, his logo folio. The core idea seems to be building strong identity with minimal typography.
Yeah, very clean lines, legible fonts, but also visual cues and colors picked specifically for the industry.
Sort of say more with less, right?
Totally. Take Nextcraft or Ecolites. He often zeroes in on a single letter, makes it memorable, maybe adds a little twist.
And the colors have purpose.
Definitely. You see greens and blues for eco-friendly stuff, maybe warmer tones like orange or red for health. It's about function and feel.
So the logo becomes a quick hit of the brand's character.
Exactly. Communicated through color, shape, and the type itself.
Okay, moving on to posters. These feel more direct, like graphic statements.
Yeah, they often visualize an idea quite powerfully, sometimes tackling social things, sometimes more personal.
And typography plays a big role here too, doesn't it?
Huge.
Yeah.
Sometimes it practically is the image, or at least has a strong visual character. Placement is key.
And color.
Works on emotional and semantic levels, what the color itself suggests,
I noticed some humor, but with a critical edge, looking at social norms.
Yeah, consumer culture, identity, those faceless figures you sometimes see, they can be metaphors for, the anonymous individual.
Kind of reusing familiar images to make you see them differently.
Precisely. Pushing you to think a bit more. Posters is art, really.
What about his book covers? They're like the first handshake with the story.
For sure. They need to capture the essence, the tone. He adapts quite a bit, whether it's sci-fi or drama or critique.
Matisse in Istanbul, for example.
That one uses collage, bringing in Istanbul textures, abstract shapes, quite calm colors, a real cultural blend.
Then compare that to the Pablo Picasso cover.
Completely different, very conceptual. Fragmented letters, kind of structural, mirroring Picasso's different periods, his innovation, unconventional type for an unconventional artist.
Now this Ideograph project sounds fascinating. Design meeting language.
It really is. He visually represents the meaning of Turkish words just through the form of the letters. Minimalist typographic inventions.
Like how?
Well, the D in dondurma, which means ice cream, actually looks like a cone. Or kapala, meaning closed, is literally put inside a box shape.
Clever. What's the black and blue thing?
Black is the fixed dictionary word. Blue is his flexible visual take on it. Kind of dual sign system.
Let's talk branding. EkiTap, that's the children's publisher.
Yeah, aimed at making reading seem fun, imaginative, educational, not just a chore.
So the look is playful.
Playful, but still readable. Rounded shapes, maybe little figurative hints in the type. And the colors purple for trust, orange for fun. Good balance.
And that star symbol.
That asterisk represents children reading with joy. It's all about adding value beyond just the words emotionally, conceptually.
Then there's MathLab, the Tech Research Center. Very different vibe.
Oh, yeah. Bold, modern typeface, a geometric blue form, serious, advanced tech.
The star symbol there means.
Expansion, research pushing outwards. It's built on specific angles, 45, 36 degrees. Very precise.
And the colors blue, black, gray.
Pantone reflects blue for innovation, black for seriousness, gray for neutrality. It's consistent across everything, stationery, ads, social media.
Speaking of campaigns, the Greenpeace one, the good old days, that hits hard.
Definitely. It's a call to action about drought, climate change, using universal fruits, apple, grape, strawberry, but bronzed, like museum relics.
Against that barren background. Very dramatic lighting.
Yeah, almost like an old painting.
Yeah.
And simple classic text. The short films echo that same stark feeling.
And finally, the same campaign. Critiquing social media.
Uh-huh. How it can homogenize us, make everyone seem the same, those emoji faces on black and white figures.
Really striking. The yellow pops against the monochrome. It feels quite performative, almost algorithmic.
Exactly. And the message is blunt. Less social media, more of you.
So looking back, Kubas really masters blending the visual appeal with strong concepts underneath.
And he's so versatile across different media and messages, from branding to social critique. Typography is clearly a key tool for him.
It shows that graphic design isn't just about making things look nice, is it?
Not at all. It's a powerful way to communicate, to critique, to make you feel and think.
Makes you wonder about all the visual messages hitting you every day. How much are they shaping your perceptions?
It's worth considering. Maybe check out more of Kubas' work online. Think about those other silent spokespersons out there.
Definitely food for thought. Thanks for diving deep with us today.